Hello and welcome to the November 9th, 2025 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're putting money into this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like goodnewsnetwork.org and goodgoodgood.co. We appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Good evening, everyone. Wow, holy crap. We've got everybody. We've got Nate, we've got Spoopy, we've got Tim, we've got Mike, we've got Christian, we've got Becky, we've got Yavian, we've got Remy, we've got so many folks. Everybody, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Or catching the replay on, like I said, the Nick's News YouTube page. Every little bit helps, so thank you all so much. I'm so glad you're with us. All right, let's get into our news brew. Oh, nuts! Well, this should be a hell of a news brew. Trillium Brewing has packed this 11.7% ABV Imperial Stout so full of peanuts, almonds, hazelnuts, Madagascar vanilla, and milk sugar, it's sure to induce a sweet allergic attack. Collaborating with @OtherHalfNYC, this brew is inspired by New York City cart vendors. And I love it. Oh, nuts! If you check out the Nick's News Instagram, every Thursday I actually post the news brew, so if you can get your hands on it, you can drink one with me. So, for this one, we will need the Balisong bottle opener. It hasn't been used all that often, so I'm really bad at flicking it. Oh my, that's going to be good. Because it is an Imperial Stout, we've got our limited edition Harpoon Snifter. And we'll get into the theatrics of a 30-minute pour because this is a big bottle. Oh, and it's motor oil too. Look at that. Get with the thickness. Oh my lord. Oh, there's still a lot left in that bottle, too. Oh, I'm in heaven, heaven. Wow, that is going to be a big, good beer. Dirty Rogue says that has to be at least 4 C's thick. Mike says, I heard a million nut allergy people scream out in horror and then become suddenly silenced. He says, it looks like you're pouring syrup/Coca-Cola into that glass. Yes. I would add, Mike, I heard a million nut allergy people scream out in horror and then a million EpiPens open. Cost of beer. I have a fantastic habit of taking the tags off when I get them, so I'm not surprised or saddened by how much money I sometimes spend on beer. I believe this bottle was like $21. It's a special release from Trillium, and I got it at a Binny's in Chicago, I believe. I think this one, was like $20 for this tall, so... Yavehan says, I was one of those people that screamed at the nut allergy. I did... I can be judged very heavily. I did buy a $50 beer this weekend. Nathan says my Coors Light was like $1.50. Remy says the pharmaceutical companies endorse this beer. Yeah, I know I'll get judged heavy. I did buy a $50 bottle of beer on Saturday. I have also bought some very expensive bottles, such as a couple of bottles of Utopias. I do not ball out a lot. And when I do, it's usually because whatever I'm getting is going to be something that it's an experience for me. So, and that experience just tends to be like really good beer, especially with like the Utopias. I made one of those last like 4 years, and I love sharing the stuff that I buy. So I've got a new bottle of Utopias to share with folks, and like all this expensive beer I buy, I usually am more apt to share with everyone. So, hey, Cassidy. Becky says, good vintage. The Utopias are. Mike says, a long way from the case of silver bullets of old. Mike and I used to drink a lot in the past. Well, I would do a lot of drinking. And, yeah, silver bullets. We were professional werewolf killers. Hey, Nico. All right, let's get into the shout-out so I can try this beer. How about? It's snuggle weather. Hoodies and sweaters, chilly nights, and all the colors of fall sprinkled into the trees. It's a fantastic time to head out to Fox Hen Winery for a relaxing autumn adventure and a glass of fine wine or cider. Plan a trip to visit Fridays and Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. before they close for the season on December 6th. Fox Hen is located between downtown Grand Haven and Allendale, and I believe I will be there this upcoming Friday, probably from around 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So, to Fox Hen, getting in a couple last weekends before they close on December 6th. Cheers. Oh, Trillium Brewing, you know exactly how to get right to my heart. It's called Big Stouts. Wow, that is supreme. Dirty Rogue says, Adonis Monster Hunting Society, those were good times. Dirty Rogue and I used to, well, we're fantastic friends, practically brothers, and yes, we had a lot of good times putting away silver bullets as well. So Mike was usually in on that one too. All right. As you all know, Tuesday is Veterans Day in the United States and Remembrance Day in Canada. We'd like to take this moment to thank all of those who have served in the armed forces. Thank you, and cheers. There goes my coaster. I think the rest of the news brews through the end of the year are all like top, the cream of the crop, the best ones we've saved for the end of the year. So this is definitely living up to the hype. Whew. News quote, until he extends his circle of compassion to include all living things, man will not himself find peace. That comes from Ludwig Philipp Albert Schweitzer, who lived from 1874 to 1965 and was a German polymath. They were a theologian, an organist, a musicologist, a writer, a humanitarian, a philosopher, and a physician. And I really like that quote. I like to think about that. And his quote is, until he extends, but until we extend our circle of compassion to include all things, we will not ourselves find peace. It can be really crazy and really crappy and really difficult to kind of think about the world as this large living thing around us. With everything going on in our lives, it's very easy to become insular and to focus on us. And that's important. It is extremely important to focus on you and make sure that you are okay. But the world is a living organism that goes on around you. And so remember to have compassion not just for yourself, but for everything around you. Because in that way, until he extends his circle of compassion to include all living things, man will not himself find peace. So I hope we can all extend compassion and find peace. To Ludwig Philipp Albert Schweitzer. Cheers. Oh, God. Hey, Charlie. Oh, my God, this beer. Oh my. I'm sad I only have one bottle of it. Bug update. Ripley is scuttling around very happily at any hour she sees fit. I actually got surprised by her earlier when she was out in broad daylight, so whenever she chooses to be out, she chooses to be out. I'm happy to see her very active. The Cuddlebugs are having a good time in their home as well. They forage and they're completely oblivious to the terror that exists around them in the form of Sue, who just earlier today I noticed had come out of his hide and was moving around his home. I caught him exploring, and I'm so happy to see him, fingers crossed, that Sue will come out during an episode. Again, keep your eyes on this back terrarium, and we'll see if Sue comes marching out ever onto his hide now that Elmira's gone back to sleep. Hopefully he will come out, and he can show off just how big he's gotten for everybody. Charlie has to blast out the hellos to everybody. I am so happy to see all of y'all. All right, let's get into our broadcast, which is broken up into 4 major categories. And those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes. The really nice things that we like to end on, the really nice articles. And we kind of backloaded this episode with a lot of wholesome notes, so we'll get through, we love everything, but we've definitely got a lot of wholesome notes at the end. So we'll start off in category 1, science and technology, and we called this one Some Pretty Fishy Engineering. I will copy and paste this into the chat. Producer Donna saying we've got a great show lined up. Becky saying, I'm so happy I didn't fall asleep. Well, that's why we have the VOD. That's why we have all of our episodes on YouTube, is so that if you fall asleep, if you miss an episode, it's no worries. We don't demand everybody show up here. We know Sunday Night Football's going on. We know everybody has lives. So if you don't make it, you can always check out the VODs when they're re-uploaded on YouTube. When I pass piles of fishing nets, I see piles of money. A one-man recycling revolution on the Cornish coast. This was published to The Guardian on October 16th of 2025 by Rupert Neate. Charlie says Nick Snooze ASMR. Ian Falconer kept thinking about the heaps of discarded plastic fishing nets he saw at the Newlyn Harbor near his home in Cornwall. I thought, it's such a waste, he says. There has to be a better solution than it all going into landfill. Falconer, who's 52, studied environmental and mining geology at university and came up with a plan. Shredding and cleaning the worn-out nets, melting the plastic down, and converting it into filament to be used in 3D printing. He then built a microfactory so that the filament could be made into useful stuff. Every year, up to 1 million tons of fishing nets are discarded, he says. Most of that ends up in landfill, or is burned, or worse, still finds its way back into the oceans. This showed there was another way for some of that material. The first big challenge he encountered when he started in 2016 was getting hold of the nets, but he badgered the Newlyn Harbor master into giving him a few to test his theory in his kitchen. Dirty Rogue says, whispers, engineering. Oh, I love that. Since its launch the following year, Falconer's company, Orca, previously Fishy Filaments, has raised more than £1 million from small investors in over 40 countries. The investment funded the development of patented new machinery that can convert more than 20 kilos of nylon fishing nets an hour. He claims the recycling process has less than 3% of the carbon impact of producing new nylon. When they get to us, this particular type of fishing nets have typically been used by Cornish fishers for around 6 months, he says. They are routinely swapped out because their surface becomes cloudy due to wear and buildup of an algal biofilm. With time and repeated use, eventually the fish can sense them in the water and avoid them. Skippers can see their catches fall as their nets age, and it makes sense to replace them. The nets that go into the shredder come out as small blue-green beads that Falconer sells to 3D printing companies, which convert them into strings of filament used in 3D printing. They also get sold around the world to replace new plastics in more conventional products that are made using injection molding. Falconer's shipping container office is full of items made from the raw material: sunglasses, light shades, bottle openers, and razor blade handles. It can be used for just about anything. The items he is most proud of are those made from his nylon mixed with waste carbon fiber, mostly from offcuts of car and aeroplane manufacturing. This stronger and more expensive product is used to make parts for racing bikes and super light sunglasses and industrial components such as electronics enclosures. It's really cool. The carbon and nylon mix sells for up to 35,000 pounds a ton, more than the 12,000 pounds a ton of pure nylon beads. Our process turns a liability of about 500 pounds a ton to pay to get someone to take the nets away, not to mention the environmental cost of that, into something of real value, Falconer says. Now, when I pass the piles of fishing nets on the harbor side, I see piles of money. Abandoned, lost, or discarded fishing gear poses one of the most serious threats to marine life, says Rachel Kopak, marine ecologist at the Plymouth Marine Laboratory, adding that innovative ideas to reduce this are welcome. Recycling schemes are increasingly seen as viable and beneficial in demonstrating how old gear can be transformed into new products, reducing landfill waste and supporting a circular economy. She says, though challenges remain in scaling these efforts due to material complexity and infrastructure gaps. Falconer's roster of clients, which includes Philips Lighting, L'Oreal, Ford, and Mercedes-Benz, is increasing as more companies see Orca's potential to help them reduce their carbon footprint by increasing the proportion of their products made from recycled materials. The European Union wants automakers to use at least 20% recycled plastics by 2035, he says. Using ours is one of the easiest ways to do it. Falconer could make a nice living continuing to recycle Newland Fisher's nets, but he has a wider ambition. Waste fishing nets are a problem here in Cornwall, but the same types of nets are a much bigger problem in other countries, especially those without well-established waste systems, he says. Around Africa, South and Central America, and Asia, you see these nets littering beaches. Many of those countries don't have the equipment to recycle the nets, he says, so they are burned or just left as waste. They even end up back in the water, where they can damage coral reefs and harm marine life, including the fisheries that the local communities rely on for food. About 150,000 tons of nylon monofilament fishing nets are made every year, and based on external reports, Falconer estimates production will soon rise to 200,000 tons. The world's total traditional nylon recycling capacity is less than 150,000 tons a year, so less than half the capacity that European car makers need to make their targets, and almost all of that is taken up with recycling carpets and other textiles. To try to combat the problem, Falconer plans on exporting his recycling solution to any port or any harbor that wants it. A container with all the equipment needed to run a mini recycling plant would cost about $500,000 or £370,000 if it's built in the UK. Falconer says he has already received inquiries from 14 countries, including Brazil, Colombia, Ghana, South Africa, and Vietnam. The beauty of it is that it all fits in a shipping container and pretty much anyone can operate it, he says. So you have one of these at every harbor around the world, converting a costly and hazardous waste into a profitable raw material. That is really cool. To Ian Falconer and his company Orca, taking old discarded fishing nets and turning them into base raw filament for 3D printing and all sorts of other injection molding. Cheers! Oh my god, this beer. Looks like some stuff went down in the chat. Charlie says, about to stream on all the TVs in the house. The one-upper says, what a dissonance between Nick's News happiness and a role play I'm running called, a story I'm running called Bump in the Night. Better than the pumpkin. One-uppers. It's so much better than the pumpkin beer. Oh my god. Oh boy. Yeah, so that's really cool. All right. We are going to move on now from science and technology into category 2, health and medicine. We've got one article in here. No, we've got two articles in here. We called this first one, Touching Grass is Good for You. I'll copy and paste this into the chat. How a radical experiment to bring a forest into a preschool transformed children's health. This was published to The Guardian on Wednesday, October 29th by... Who's the author? Where's the author? I'll do you one better. Why is the author? I don't see an author on this one. It's really just listed by The Guardian. Okay. Tim asks, what's up with the snow? Well, Tim, we don't exactly have a meteorology section or a weatherman, but I guess I'll stand in for such because, you know, I love this stuff. I love the snow. It's no lie. I love winter. And I wanted some snow early, so here we are snowing in November. Back to you, Nick. Thanks, Nick. Hey, Julie. Mike says the author is just standing really still and has become invisible. My site is based on movement. All right. Aurora Nikula, 5, is having a normal day at her nursery. She is making a cake out of sand and mud, adding in make-believe carrots, potatoes, and meat. It's overcooked, she says, as she splashes water in, then adds another dollop of sand. More sugar. It tastes better, she says. A handful of mud goes in, and the dish evolves into a chocolate cake. Aki Sinkonen, a principal scientist with the Natural Resources Institute Finland, is watching. He's also very interested in Aurora's cake, but for different reasons. Perfect, he says, admiring the way she is mixing soil, sand, and leaves, and then putting it on her face. She's really getting her hands in it. To a hygiene-conscious kindergarten, this could be a problem. But at Hampula Daycare Center in Lahti, north of Helsinki, children are encouraged to get muddy. Across Finland, 43 daycare centers have been awarded a total of £1 million, I'm not sure what that currency symbol is, but it equates to £830,000, to rewild yards and to increase children's exposure to the microscopic biodiversity, such as bacteria and fungi that live in nature. Nate says snow only exists to make you appreciate any other season. Oh, it's euros. Thank you, Donna. Producer Donna corrected me. It's 1 million euros. We already know that access to the outdoors is important for children and their development, but this study goes one step further. It is part of a growing body of research linking two layers of biodiversity. There is the outer layer, the more familiar vision of biodiversity, made up of soil, water, plants, animals, and microbial life that lives in the forest, playground, or any other environment. And then there is the inner layer, the biodiversity that lives within and upon the human body, including the gut, skin, and airways. There's a bunch of people in the chat shouting, "Praise Nero." Great. Increasingly, scientists are learning that our health is intimately linked to our surroundings and to the ecological health of the world around us. The first 1,000 days of human life, when the brain and body are most rapidly developing, are considered particularly crucial. The kindergarten has been exploring that relationship through a novel experiment, including digging up a piece of the forest floor and seeing how exposure to it changes children's health. In autumn, the daycare center, which has 180 children and 50 staff, look much like an allotment run by children. The compost is fed with old leaves and weeds and then used to grow beetroots, carrots, cucumbers, and potatoes, courgettes, and chilies. Now parsley is the only thing left. Winter is drawing in and everything else has been eaten. The children, however, remain outside. The plants, dead wood, and soil in the daycare center have all been specially selected for their rich microbiodiversity. They have also dug up and imported a giant live carpet of forest floor, 20 to 40 centimeters deep and 10 meters square. That is a big chunk of real estate. It has blueberries, lingonberries, and moss growing on it to encourage the children to forage, find bugs, and learn about nature. I love everything about this. This area has not been forested for 200 years, so this is a substitute, says Sinkonen. In a wetland area, they can balance on rocks and play among a different selection of plants. 5 years ago, it was a gravel car park. This kindergarten was included in a 2-year study looking at how biodiversity enhancements affect the microbial composition of children's skin, saliva, and feces. The study was a first of its kind. Blood samples were taken to look at immune defenses, and a short questionnaire about infectious diseases was filled out every 3 months. In total, 75 children aged between 3 and 5 across 10 urban daycare centers took part in the study. It compared rewilded daycare centers such as this with others covered in asphalt, sand, gravel, and plastic mats. A year later, it found children playing in the green kindergartens had less disease-causing bacteria, such as streptococcus, on their skin and stronger immune defenses. Their gut microbiota showed reduced levels of Clostridium bacteria associated with inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, and infections such as sepsis and botulism. Within 28 days, it found an increase in cells in the blood called T regulatory cells that protect the body from autoimmune diseases. Other research showed that in just 2 weeks, children's immune system regulation could be improved by playing in a sandpit enriched with garden soil. The human body contains trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, which are essential to how we function. Research shows external microbiodiversity, such as bacteria and fungi, is transferred into the body through touch or ingestion, because what kid hasn't eaten a handful of dirt at some point? Even breathing counts. The air has its own microbiome, which is associated with tree and plant species in the surrounding area. Soil, home to 90% of the world's fungi, also feeds the microbiome in the air. Scientists think one of the reasons so many people now have allergies is because they were not exposed to microbes that occur naturally in the environment at a young age. The old friends hypothesis says humans evolved alongside microbes in the air, plants, and soil. The body can exchange useful microbes, bacteria and fungi for example, with the natural world to stay healthy. Marja Rosland, a scientist at the Natural Resource Institute, Finland, says it's good for national health. Immune diseases are expensive. Even a small reduction in the burden of these diseases is good for national health and the economy. Good night, Becky. Hey, TNT. Previous research found that early exposure to green space was linked to a healthy immune system, but it was unclear if this was causation or correlation. The Finland study suggests it to be causal. An Australian study published last year corroborated the findings, showing children playing with a range of different soils had better gut health and a stronger immune system. The interest in bringing dirt and nature into nurseries is spreading. In Helsinki, Puutapilvi Pumiri Daycare Center is being redesigned with the help of a €30,000 or £25,000 government grant. It currently looks like a building site with a couple of diggers at work, but soon there will be trees, flowers, rocks, planters, sandpits, and a grass area for games. We told the architects we want nature in it, says Marjo Valimaki-Sari, the center's director. We're moving the action from inside to outside. We want to show the children nature so they learn about it, says Valimaki-Sari. The kindergartners provide more evidence of just how crucial healthy ecosystems are to human health. As biodiversity, habitats, and wild species are lost around the planet, there are huge potential repercussions for human well-being. Increasing on-site biodiversity can be a win-win for children's health and the environment. The University of Sheffield has done research on installing green barriers around school playgrounds to prevent air pollution from harming children's health. Based on that study, Hunters Bar Infant School in Sheffield created a 70-meter-long hedge of plants and shrubs that wraps around the playground, which is close to a busy road. Nitrogen dioxide, or NO2, concentrations in the playground were reduced by 13% 6 months after planting, and further decreases are expected as the hedge matures. More and more people are saying they want to make these daycares in their towns, says Rosalind. Visitors from Norway, Iceland, and Denmark have come to see how they could replicate the Finnish model at home. I don't want to see rubber mats in any kindergartens, says Sinkonen. To everybody involved with making green kindergartens to improve the health of children, showing that touching grass is very important. Cheers. TNT is fry. Person in the chat. Alright, we called this next one Finding Peace, both inside and out. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Yes, producer Donna. I just saw her go, hey, Nick. Am I going too fast? The last article was by Phoebe Weston. Oh, thank you very much, producer Donna. The last article that we read was produced by Phoebe Weston. Phoebe, thank you very much for writing that one. For this one, students of color benefit from meditation in schools, so Atlanta is investing in mindfulness. This was published at goodgoodgood.co on October 31st by Cameron Baker. Social emotional learning, including meditation, yoga, and mindfulness breaks, are becoming more commonplace in schools across the country. Reports have found these initiatives are even more beneficial among communities that have fewer resources than others, including those with more students of color. This is especially evidenced in Atlanta, where Greenlight Fund Atlanta helps Georgia school systems pay for mindfulness programs. They are created by Inner Explorer, an audio platform that guides students and teachers through 5 to 10-minute sessions of breathing, meditation, and reflection. It's used by Atlanta Public Schools and over 100 districts in the United States. The goal is to ensure that at least some form of mental health care is accessible to students of color, as Black youth have the fastest growing suicide rate among racial groups according to the CDC. Between 2007 and 2020, the suicide rate among Black youth increased by 144%. And according to Jolie Cooper, Greenlight Fund Atlanta's executive director, there are not enough psychologists of color available. While meditation breaks do not eliminate the need for more in-depth care, they do help. Teachers and administrators at Roberta T. Smith Elementary School in Atlanta told the Associated Press they notice a difference in their students since incorporating mindfulness into their daily learning. And the students notice too. I love myself how I am, Ania Woods, a 9-year-old, told the Associated Press. But Inner Explorer just helps me feel more like myself. To everybody involved with the Greenlight Fund Atlanta and Inner Explorer for bringing meditation and mindfulness to students in the classroom. Cheers. Oh my Lord. I'm going to top off this beer. I should do a Nick's News after show for when I'm trying to finish these beers, because I almost never finish them during the episode. I always kind of stay up for like a little while after to finish them off. It'd be so funny to do Nick's News after news. Maybe we'll have to talk about that for next year. Okay, so that's going to get us out of health and medicine. We're going to jump into category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. And we call this one Ode to the Humble Muskrat. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Nick's news after news. I forget if somebody sent this one in. Nope, nobody sent this one in. Okay. Muskrats fight invasive cattails and help restore biodiversity in Great Lakes wetlands, Loyola study finds. This was published to the Chicago Tribune on November 4th of 2025 by Adriana Perez. Sorry, Adriana. With their surgical nibbles, these large, semi-aquatic, buck-toothed rodents have emerged as crucial helpers for ecologists restoring degraded wetlands across the Great Lakes. They are not the well-known dam-building beavers, but can often be found in the same marshy ecosystems. Muskrats, which are more closely related to voles and hamsters, love to eat and build their lodges out of invasive cattails. That's right, if you've ever gone by the water and you see a whole bunch of cattails, just be aware, cattails are an invasive species. One of the first things that happens is the cattail comes in. Outcompetes the very diverse community of native plants, said Shane Lishawa, a researcher at Loyola University, Chicago. And that prevents not only plants, but the aquatic organisms, fish, invertebrates, and then also birds and amphibians from accessing and utilizing these wetlands that are super critical for biodiversity support across the whole region. Typha angustifolia, or narrow-leaf cattail, was introduced to North America in the dry ballast of European ships during the 19th century. Where it overlaps with the native broadleaf cattail, they produce a hybrid known as Typha x glauca. Lishawa called both the narrowleaf and hybrid cattails very aggressive wetland invaders. While beavers are known for their ability to drastically change ecosystems, particularly by building dams that regulate water flow, muskrats can substantially alter vegetation structure. They do so by cutting invasive cattails underwater, removing a stem that serves as a snorkel for the plant, allowing it to transfer oxygen from the atmosphere into its roots. In areas densely packed with tall cattails, muskrats create a patchwork of small openings that allow plants of different heights to grow. That in turn creates habitat for diverse native wildlife. It is something Lishawa noticed after years of research in a freshwater marsh on Michigan's Upper Peninsula, when the local rodent population boomed as decade-long low water levels in the Great Lakes rebounded. The animals, he said, were very apparently affecting the vegetation and likely increasing the biodiversity of the site. His team shared the observation with their local partners in the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. And they were like, yeah, of course, that's what muskrats do, Lishawa said. The species holds cultural significance for the Great Lakes Ojibwe nations, in whose creation stories the common muskrat, Wazhashk in the indigenous language, plays an important role. Even though it dies in the process, Wazhashk helps restore the earth after the Great Flood when it retrieves a little ball of earth that would later be shaped into Turtle Island, now known as North America. Equipped with this ecological wisdom, researchers from Loyola, the tribe, and the University of Connecticut gathered data and found muskrats reduced invasive hybrid cattails by 71%, where the animals were present in the marsh that connects the Munisquong River with the St. Mary's River, located between Lake Superior and Huron. The removal of the tall plants also reduced the cover of European frogbit, another non-native plant with floating leaves that Lishawa said likes to grow in and amongst the cattails. In the creation story, Wazhash's contribution and sacrifice allowed for others to have a place to live, the study authors wrote. It illustrates the important role that muskrats play in modifying their environment and providing habitat for other organisms. Because muskrats are not present in all wetlands, especially given their population decline in the United States over the last few decades, the researchers also tried to replicate the rodent's impact on cattails by mowing the plants below the water line. There might be circumstances, Lishawa said, where you would like to see the effects of this organism, but you don't have them to work with. So we wanted to see if we could create conditions that reflected what the muskrats did. They found that a human management strategy that mimicked the rodent's cutting method could have a similar effect in reducing the invasive plant's cover where a muskrat population is not present. This is something that I personally would like to explore a lot more. I mean, as far as I know, we're the only people who have ever really tried doing this, Lishawa said. Replicating beaver dams has been more widely used in ecosystem restoration, and he hopes mimicking muskrat activity leads to similar success. Across North America, there's been this awakening about the ecological role of beavers, Lishawa said. I think that there's a parallel there with muskrats. Beavers are also being live trapped and moved to where they can help restore degraded ecosystems. Lishawa said there could be potential for similar efforts catching muskrats where they are considered a nuisance and releasing them in natural sites where a population could increase biodiversity or address invasive cattails. I think that's a real possibility, and I think that could definitely help enhance their positive ecological effects, Lishawa said. To be an effective restoration strategy, it would likely need to be evaluated and implemented on a site-by-site basis. Enlisting the help of muskrats and imitating them could become part of larger efforts to conserve and restore coastal wetlands, which once spanned more than 1 million acres in the Great Lakes region, but of which only about half remain due to development, drainage for agriculture, and other human interventions. Often remaining wetlands have been degraded by pollution and invasive species. In Illinois, urban development and agriculture have destroyed as much as 90% of the state's original marshy, swampy land, including inland and coastal wetlands. Restoration and conservation work in these ecosystems has become more crucial as federal protections have been challenged in recent years. The U.S. Supreme Court stripped protections from inland wetlands in the 2023 Sackett v. EPA, allowing private property development where there is no continuous surface connection to permanent bodies of water. After the decision, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign found that roughly 72% of remaining wetlands in the state are no longer protected by the Federal Clean Water Act. In the case of narrowleaf and hybrid cattails, they have been part of the landscape for so long that many Americans are unaware their presence in the ecosystems indicates degradation, Lishawa said. There's this concept in some ecological literature about shifting baselines, he said. Our intuitive sense of what a wetland looks like includes this species that 200 years ago was not there. More recent invaders, such as frogbit, as well as the common reed, often cause the most concern among conservation scientists due to their dramatic increase over the last few decades. However, the long-standing and often accepted presence of invasive cattails in North America makes addressing the issue all the more challenging. But Lishawa and his colleagues, Team Taifa, want to change that. Doing so will require more research to evaluate how other organisms respond to the systematic removal of cattails, whether this is by muskrats or humans acting like muskrats. Depending on what we find, it could lead to more support for this type of management, he said. To everybody involved in these studies at the Loyola University Chicago and Ojibwe Nation tribes of the Great Lakes, learning how muskrats affect wetland behavior and cutting down invasive cattails. Cheers! Charlie said, Nick's News After Dark, last call, LOL. Nick's News After News. Whew. We've had some long articles tonight so far. I need to take some sip breaks, probably, to keep wetting my whistle. I practically have to chew this beer. But it is helping. Wow, it's nutty. All right. We call this next article, Everyone Deserves to Walk a Dog. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. ALS made it impossible for this woman to walk her dog. Engineers invented a custom adaptive leash just for her. This was published to goodgoodgood.co on November 4th by Cameron Baker. 3 years ago, Brooke Eby, now 36 years old, was diagnosed with, I always screw this one up, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or Lou Gehrig's disease. The condition affects motor neurons and the spinal cord, and as it progresses, weakens and atrophies the muscles. Eby was originally told she had 2 to 5 years to live. The disease has indeed progressed, and she now navigates the world in a wheelchair. And although she comedically and authentically shares her experiences on TikTok, often with a smile on her face, there is one activity in particular she missed doing independently: walking her dog, Dre. She adopted her little furry friend when she was 26, and they've been partners in crime ever since, especially through her diagnosis. We've learned to adapt, but lately with this big chair, it's just been impossible to walk him by myself, she said in a video for Chewy. Every year, the pet care brand launches its Chewy Claws campaign, which we actually talked about on a previous episode of Nick's News, where pets and their people can send a virtual letter to Chewy's version of Santa. Some lucky recipients will have their dreams of toys and bones fulfilled, but every wish contributes to something bigger. For every letter submitted between now and December 24th, Chewy Claws will deliver 5 meals, up to 16 million total meals, to a pet in need through greater good charities. But the brand also wanted to make Eby's wish come true this holiday season. As her condition has progressed, Brooke can no longer walk her senior rescue dog, Dre. Although Brooke has tried several adaptive leashes, they often tangle in her wheelchair and aren't designed for Dre's small size, Chewy shared in a press release. These insufficient leashes have deprived Brooke of one of her favorite activities, taking a walk with her best friend, and the sense of independence it brings. So when Dre shared this wish, Chewy Claws listened and created a custom solution that allows the pair to recapture that special time side by side. Producer Donna did say we included the link for the Chewy Claws. Working with engineers at Bold Lead Designs, Chewy made the pair a totally custom adaptive leash to attach to Eby's wheelchair. Hands-free control is really important for people that have disabilities because it gives them a sense of independence, Katrina Boldry, leash design expert and owner of Bold Lead Designs, told Chewy. We made what I call a fastener-free collar, so all you have to do is clip the leash onto the chair, the collar over his head, and off she goes. The custom design was a success, and Dre was smiling alongside his mom with pride. He caught on so well, Eby said, of Dre's new leash. He doesn't seem to notice a difference. Dre is seeing me be less and less active, and it's just showing him that I'm still there. Still the same leash holder I've always been, Eby added. This is one less time I have to ask someone to help me do something I used to do myself multiple times a day in my normal life. In addition to providing Eby and Dre with a custom leash, Chewy Claws is donating $10,000 to Team Gleason, an ALS advocacy organization that helps people live fully alongside the challenges of the disease. Chewy Claws celebrates life with pets, from the everyday to the extraordinary. We are especially excited to inspire joy, love, and connection this holiday season, Orlena Young, Chief Brand Officer at Chewy, said in a statement. Brooke and Dre's story is a touching reminder of how pets transform our lives, and Chewy is proudly grateful to provide support throughout the highs and lows of pet parenting. Anyone interested in submitting their holiday wish to Chewy Claws can do so online now until December 24th. Pet parents also have the option to defer receiving a gift and redirect 5 more meals to shelter pets all season long. Oh, that was a good one. To Brooke Eby, her fur friend Dre, to Chewy, and to the engineering firm Bold Lead Designs for making a special leash so that Eby can walk Dre. Cheers. That's some really good stuff. All right. That is going to get us out of flora and fauna. We're going to move on to category 4, the wholesome notes. This first one was sent in by Charlie. Charlie, thank you so much for sending this one in. We called it Anchors Away, My Friends. And I will copy and paste this into the chat. You Stinkin'. How one comment turned a cashier into the US Naval Academy's unofficial grandmother. This was published to WUSA on September 19th of 2024 by Sean Martinelli. May Blue has thousands of grandbabies, and if you try to convince her otherwise, she will set you straight. They are my grandchildren, she said matter-of-factly. I couldn't ask for no more. Blue is referring to the thousands of midshipmen at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. For years, Blue has worked as a cashier at the academy. But very quickly, she began tending to more than just her register. Everybody feels as if they are her favorite midshipman and that she is their grandma. Chris Johnson, one of Blue's grandchildren, said. Blue earned the distinction of grandmother soon after she got her cashier job. A midshipman approached her register and Blue, not holding back, said he was stinkin'. The midshipman told Blue that she sounded like his grandmother, and her reputation was born. Blue has gone so far as to buy birthday cakes for midshipmen on each of their birthdays, and when the Navy football team wins, she gets them both a cake and a fruit salad. The love and affection Blue receives in return from her gestures is the ultimate reward, she said. Her husband and mother passed away before she began working at the academy, which left her searching for a way to fill her heart. I really couldn't ask for no more, Blue said. It's priceless. In the ultimate display of appreciation, the Naval Academy's class of 2022 named Blue an honorary classmate. The Academy has also begun including her as an example in their leadership classes. In a career in which we are striving to be selfless leaders and successful leaders, Grandma May is the best example, Johnson said. To Grandma May, May Blue, who's been working as a cashier at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and has done so much to basically be the grandmother to thousands of midshipmen in the United States Navy. Cheers. And to Charlie for sending in that article. Cheers! With Veterans Day approaching as of the taping of this episode, we felt that was a good one to include. This next one we said, with this, I do thee wed. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Couple marries at animal sanctuary where they met, with a disabled sheep as ring bearer. This was published to Nice News on September 7th of 2025. It was originally published to SWNS by Emily Phillips. Bunny, the disabled sheep, has always been a daddy's girl, according to owner Jake Ratcliffe. So when he and his bride, Rosie, tied the knot a few months ago, there was no better fit for the role of ring bearer than their beloved Fluffy ewe. In 2018, Jake founded his animal sanctuary, Millington's Magical Barn, in Yorkshire, England, while also working as an electrical engineer. Though a pet lover, the 34-year-old had no previous experience in the rescue world prior to establishing the sanctuary, but in the years since, he's helped over 200 animals who needed a home. He met Rosie, a 28-year-old veterinary nurse, when she began volunteering there in 2020. After spending the summer mucking stables out and looking after animals together, the couple fell in love, and Jake proposed in August of 2023. They'd originally decided to get married in France, but once they delved further into wedding planning, the location didn't feel right, Jake told SWNS. We spoke about it more and thought, we met here, fell in love here, and proposed here. So it was only right we got married here too. A sanctuary is not a wedding venue, so we had to come up with a solution of where the ceremony would be. I told Rosie I'd convert the cow barn into a wedding venue. Rosie was skeptical, but I'd like to say we pulled it off. When it came time for the ring bearer selection, Jake had his heart set on Bunny, who was born without the use of her back legs. We were discussing ideas of who would be the ring bearer. I always wanted Bunny, he said, noting that she arrived at Millington's just as we were turning the cow barn into a wedding venue, so she spent 6 weeks with me while we all set up. Initially, Rosie was worried about Bunny taking on such an important task, as animals like cows, sheep, and pigs are not as adaptive with commands and training as dogs are, Jake explained. Ahead of their nuptials, the couple did a bit of a rehearsal, but with farm animals, there's not much training to it. I kind of just had to rely on the fact that me and Bunny had a special relationship, and that she would come to me. I had a bottle of milk on hand just in case. As a backup, they also assigned Alfie, one of Rosie's childhood dogs, as the other ring bearer. But right before the ceremony began, the Bichon Frise decided to take himself on a little adventure, and abandoned his role as secondary ring bearer in the pursuit of snacks. We lost him, and I had to hastily borrow my mom's ring to put on Rosie's finger, Jake shared. Luckily, Bunny successfully walked down the aisle on August 2nd in her adaptive chair, much to the delight of the couple's 60 guests. You could hear the collective "aww" as she walked down the aisle, Jake said. Everyone thought Bunny was amazing. While we were getting prepared for the wedding, we were not around in the garden at the time, and I told the groomsmen not to let Bunny eat anything she shouldn't. But when the wedding photos came back, we saw she was eating some of the canapes. It proves you can't put groomsmen in charge of anything, he teased. Mike says, well, at least we know what the first dance song was. We like to move it, move it. As soon as the confetti was thrown, we ran around the farm trying to locate the ring. We thought, where would Alfie go? Jake said. He was up in the cat's room, eating all their food, with the ring on the floor next to him. As for Rosie, her wedding day couldn't have been any more perfect, despite a missing ring and a rogue pup. Everybody has their own idea of their dream wedding, and for me, a big fancy French wedding just didn't fit it, she said. I'm much more of a simple girl, and getting married at home in beautiful Yorkshire, surrounded by our rescued animals, our friends, and our family, was what truly mattered. We met at the sanctuary. We fell in love here. We even got engaged here while I was bottle feeding a lamb that had a collar on saying, "Turn around," she continued. It only felt right to complete the full circle and get married here. It took a village to turn our working animal sanctuary into our dream wedding venue, but thanks to everyone who contributed, it was really a dream day. We're sure Bunny agrees. It was a beautiful day. To everybody involved at Millington's Magical Barn, and to Bunny, the incredible you that turned into a ring bearer and did an amazing job. Cheers. This last one is a Not All Heroes Wear Capes article. Again, we have several articles that we don't give catchy titles. We have a bank of titles that we apply to certain ones that fit criteria. And this is definitely a Not All Heroes Wear Capes article. It is potentially also an I'm Not Crying, You're Crying article. So just giving you all a heads up in advance. I will copy and paste this into the chat. This Pittsburgh dad did a $150 grocery run to feed his neighbors during snap cuts. What happened next left his whole body shaking. This was published to goodgoodgood.co on November 7th of 2025 by Megan Cook. As the government shutdown entered its 38th day, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program had paid the price, with benefits disrupted for an estimated 42 million Americans. 2 judges had ordered the Trump administration to tap emergency reserves to continue the program, orders which the administration since appealed. As government assistance hangs in the balance, people across the country are stepping up to help their neighbors. People like Pittsburgh father A.J. Owen. On Sunday, October 22nd, he took his boys, aged 7 and 9, to the grocery store to buy $150 worth of groceries. Then they set up an impromptu food drive for their neighbors in their front yard. I try to keep my kids updated on what's happening in the world, but they're helpers. They've always been helpers, Owen told People magazine. I told them about SNAP potentially going away, and they said, "How can we help people?" And this was the answer. At first, Owen's youngest son worried that nobody would show up. And I said, "Buddy, if we help one person, then this was all worth it," Owen said. Then their food drive went viral on TikTok. Overnight, Owen saw a huge swell of support from people across the country, with hundreds asking how they could chip in. But the biggest shock came when he went to check his mailbox on November 1st and pulled out an envelope filled with thousands of dollars in cash. The cash, which was donated anonymously, bore a simple message: "May God prosper and bless your food pantry." I took the envelope in. It felt thick. I thought maybe there's some gift cards in there, Owen said. I opened it up and just $100 bills. A stack of $100 bills. I truly didn't know how to react. I froze. I started shaking, and I started crying. The video of Owen's tearful reaction has since been viewed 18.2 million times, with people flooding the comments section with praise. "Humanity is showing up," one viewer wrote. "This gives me hope." "I remember when Mr. Rogers told me to look for the helpers," wrote another. Many also wrote in to say that the Owen family's food pantry inspired them to take action in their own communities. "This reminded me there's a food pantry really close to me. I haven't helped stock in a bit," a viewer said. "Gonna fix that now." "I delivered about 10 bags of groceries that myself and my friend pulled together today to a food pantry nearby," another person wrote. "The place was fully packed. This is my America." Owens has continued to share updates on TikTok as his family's food pantry has expanded. One day, Pittsburgh Steelers defensive end Yahya Black stopped by to drop off supplies, an added shock for the Owens, who are huge Steelers fans. "Look at this," Owen said, grinning as he filmed the massive pile of grocery bags in his yard. "This is going to last so long, and I'm so grateful they showed up." Currently, the Owen family plans to hold their front yard food drive for the foreseeable future. "People deserve food. People deserve to be fed," he said. "As long as there's a need in our community, we will keep this out." "Making a food pantry is no different than me inviting you over to my house for dinner," Owen added. "Come grab a meal. Come grab a drink. Come grab what you need. I'm happy to have you." And I actually did tear up just a little bit right now. To Pittsburgh father A.J. Owen for setting up an impromptu food pantry in your front yard. Being an inspiration. And to whomever sent that large amount of money to kick things off even harder, though you are anonymous, you too are a hero. To A.J. Owen, also, as you know, not all heroes wear capes. Cheers. Wow. Yeah, that one got me. That's the one that got me. Mike says, Jimmy Kimmel and the like also opened a food bank in their parking lot. God bless. Everybody that's stepping up right now with everything going on. And basically, nobody is forgetting our neighbors. To everybody that's helping out, like, you really are the heroes of this. So, yeah. That's going to do it for tonight. 8 amazing articles, ending on definitely a not all heroes wear capes moment. And also a I'm not crying, you're crying. Producer Donna says, it may not be much, but each of us can do something like that. Makes a big difference to someone else. And I couldn't echo that statement louder. Thank you, Producer Donna. Thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. We're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on November 16th of 2025. We encourage participation, so by all means, if you'd like, you can feel inclined to message or post suggestions for news brews, shout-outs, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can show on future episodes. If you send a bunch, please try to spread them out across our 4 categories, which again were science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, like the story of A.J. Owens tonight. You can message us on Facebook or on Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are all in the description below in the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our Facebook and Instagram content, and YouTube and TikTok videos to get good news and hope out and joy out into the algorithm. Please no SEO improvement advertisements. We're not interested. Y'all continue to grow Nick's News. Y'all continue to spread the good news, spread the joy, spread the hope core, and I can't thank you all enough, really. I love every single one of you for everything you do, be it just swinging here for an episode, watching our content, liking it, subscribing it, hanging out, just whatever. All of you make Nick's News what it is, and I appreciate you all so much. So, as always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.